Welcome back to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. Today we're diving into Sunan Abu Dawud,
Okay.
specifically Book 22, which focuses on medicine.
Right.
You've shared some really interesting hadiths from this book with me,
I have.
and it seems like you're particularly interested in traditional Islamic perspectives on health and healing.
Absolutely. And this book provides just a really unique window into how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, viewed health and wellness and what he advised his followers.
Okay, let's jump right in. One of the first hadiths that caught my eye was Hadith 346.
Yep.
It states that Allah has provided a remedy for every illness except for old age.
Right.
It's such a powerful statement to start
Oh,
with.
it is.
Almost like it's setting the stage for the entire book.
It really does. This hadith highlights a core belief in Islam that every ailment, every suffering we experience in this world has a potential cure provided by Allah. And it speaks to this beautiful interconnectedness between faith and health. In the Islamic tradition, we seek remedies, but ultimately it's Allah who grants healing.
This reminds me of the term tib and nabawi that I've come across in my readings.
Yeah.
Is that connected to this concept?
It absolutely is. Tib and Nabawi translates to the medicine of the Prophet. It's a holistic system of healthcare that draws upon the Prophet's teachings and practices. Think of it as a way of life, an approach to health that views the physical, spiritual, and mental aspects of a person as inseparable. This hadith beautifully encapsulates this perspective.
So it's not just about physical remedies,
Yeah,
but about understanding health
right.
in a much broader context.
Exactly. And this holistic approach is so beautifully illustrated in Hadith 347. This hadith details the Prophet's advice to Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, during his convalescence.
Okay.
He specifically advises Ali against consuming ripe dates, suggesting barley and beer root as alternatives.
Why the specific recommendation against ripe dates, and what's so special about barley and beer root?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Ripe dates, while nutritious, are also high in sugar content. Perhaps this wasn't ideal for Ali's condition at the time. Now, barley is a powerhouse of nutrients rich in fiber and various vitamins and minerals, which makes it a great food for recovery. But the mention of beer root is particularly interesting. This is a less common ingredient, and its inclusion suggests a deep understanding of the plant world and its potential medicinal benefits.
That's so intriguing. It's like we're catching glimpses of ancient wisdom that modern science is only beginning to understand.
I completely agree. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see a recurring theme of moderation and balance in the Prophet's teachings. This hadith reflects that in the context of diet and healing.
It seems like there's a lot to learn from these ancient practices, even in our modern world.
Yeah.
Speaking of ancient practices, we can't talk about Islamic medicine without delving into cupping therapy.
Right.
It's mentioned quite prominently in several hadiths, 3848, 3849, and 3850.
Yes. Cupping, or hijama, holds a significant place in Islamic medical tradition. In fact, in Hadith 3848, the Prophet, peace be upon him, calls it the best of medical treatments. It involves placing heated cups on specific points of the body, creating suction that draws out toxins, promotes blood circulation, and helps alleviate various ailments.
And what's interesting is the level of detail provided in some of these hadiths. For example, in Hadith 3849,
Okay.
we hear from Salma, may Allah be pleased with her, that the Prophet, peace be upon him, recommended cupping for headaches and even suggested henna for leg pain.
These details are so valuable. They offer practical guidance, showing how the Prophet didn't just endorse these practices theoretically, but actively advised people on their applications. He even specified areas on the body for cupping, like the top of the head and between the shoulders, as we see in Hadith 3850. It gives us a glimpse into the actual healthcare practices of that time.
It's amazing how these hadiths provide such a vivid picture, though I'm a bit curious about Hadith 3823. Which mentions differing opinions regarding cupping on Tuesdays. Does this suggest there were disagreements, even within the early Muslim community?
This is where things get really insightful. It reminds us that Islamic scholarship has always embraced a diversity of thought. The differing opinions regarding cupping on Tuesdays highlights the nuances and the dynamic nature of interpreting and applying these teachings.
So it's not just about blind acceptance.
Yeah.
But about understanding the rationale and different perspectives within the tradition.
Exactly. It's about approaching these hadiths with a critical and informed lens.
Now, besides cupping, the Prophet, peace be upon him, seems to have endorsed other medical practices, like venesection, which is essentially bloodletting. This is mentioned in Hadith 1875.
Yeah. Okay.
However, he expressed disapproval of cauterization in Hadith 3856. What can you tell us about these two practices and the Prophet's stances.
Venesection or bloodletting was a common practice in ancient times, often used to treat various conditions by removing what was considered bad blood. The Prophet's endorsement suggests it was viewed as a valid treatment within certain contexts. Cauterization, on the other hand, involves burning and sealing a wound using heat. While it can be effective, it is also quite painful and potentially dangerous, if not done properly. The Prophet's disapproval might have stemmed from concerns about its potential to inflict unnecessary harm.
That's a really interesting distinction. It seems like he was advocating for treatments that were beneficial
Yeah.
and at the same time minimized potential suffering.
Yes, it speaks to the Prophet's compassion and his concern for the well-being of his followers. He encouraged seeking treatment, but cautioned against practices that could cause undue pain or have potentially harmful side effects.
That's thought-provoking. It makes me wonder how these principles could be applied to our approach to healthcare even today. But before we go down that path, let's address a slightly more controversial topic.
Okay.
Amulets, spells, and charms. There are quite a few hadiths in this book, like 3859, 3860, 3874, 3875, 3878, and 3879 that touch upon this subject.
This is where understanding the nuances of Islamic theology becomes really crucial. In Islam, there's a clear distinction between seeking Allah's help through permissible means and relying on practices that might be considered shirk, which is associating partners with Allah.
So how do we navigate this? How do we determine what's permissible and what isn't?
Well, for instance, Hadith 3874 explicitly states that spells, charms, and love potions are polytheism. This highlights the prohibition against relying on supernatural forces other than Allah for healing or protection. However, practices like ruqya, which involves reciting verses from the Quran or specific supplications for healing, are permissible. The key here is to ensure that our actions are rooted in faith and trust in Allah alone.
So it's all about intention. It's not the amulet itself, but the words of Allah, the supplications that hold the potential for healing.
Exactly. And this point is further emphasized in Hadith 3865, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, states, Allah has sent down both the disease and the cure. He has appointed a cure for every disease. So treat yourselves medically, but use nothing unlawful. This hadith beautifully encapsulates the Islamic approach to healing, seeking treatment while remaining within the bounds of what is permissible in Islam.
It's fascinating how Islam advocates for a balanced approach, recognizing the role of worldly remedies, while always remaining conscious of the ethical and spiritual boundaries.
It's a beautiful blend of pragmatism and faith.
Yeah.
Of action and reliance on Allah.
I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
And we are just getting started.
Yeah, it is indeed a fascinating tapestry we're weaving here, exploring the threads of faith and healing, as understood in the time of the Prophet. And speaking of weaving, one concept that stands out to me is shadow de vilo, this idea of seeking Allah's help through prayer and supplication. It appears throughout these hadiths almost like a constant thread running through the fabric of Islamic healthcare.
Yes, absolutely. It feels like seeking Allah's healing through dua is more than just a suggestion. It's deeply ingrained in the Islamic approach to well-being. It strikes me as how several hadiths not only discourage certain practices, but also offer alternative permissible ways to seek healing. It's like they close one door but open another, guiding us towards a path that aligns with Islamic beliefs.
That's a beautiful observation. You see it perfectly exemplified in Hadith 3874. This hadith, while warning against the use of certain charms and spells, provides a powerful supplication for healing. The Prophet, peace be upon him, teaches us to say, "Remove the harm, O Lord of men, and heal thou art the healer. There is no remedy but thine, which leaves no disease behind."
It's such a profound and direct plea to the divine, acknowledging Allah's ultimate power to heal. What I find truly touching is that this dua isn't just about seeking healing for oneself, but also emphasizes the universality of Allah's mercy. It's a reminder that He is the healer for all of humanity.
And there's another beautiful supplication in Hadith 3883 that resonates with this theme of universal compassion. This hadith encourages us to pray not only for ourselves, but also for others who are suffering. It's a beautiful testament to the empathy and care that are understanding at the heart of Islam.
This concept of praying for others is something that truly sets Islamic teachings apart. It broadens our understanding of healing, reminding us that well-being is not just an individual pursuit, but something we can collectively strive for. It makes me wonder if there are any psychological benefits to prayer itself, even beyond its spiritual significance.
That's a very astute observation. In fact, numerous studies have shown that prayer and mindfulness practices can have psychological and even physiological benefits. They can reduce stress, improve mental well-being, and even positively impact physical health. So while the primary intention is to seek Allah's help, the act of prayer itself can be incredibly therapeutic.
It's amazing how ancient practices like prayer, rooted in faith and spirituality, are now being recognized for their therapeutic value by modern science. This really underscores the holistic nature of Islamic teachings on health.
It certainly does. And to delve deeper into this holistic perspective, we should talk about some of the captivating stories found in this book, stories that illuminate how these principles were lived and experienced by the early Muslims.
I always love a good story that bring these teachings to life in a way that's relatable and inspiring. What story comes to mind?
Well, there's a rather remarkable account of Alaka ibn Sahar at Tamimi, narrated in Hadiths 387 and 392. Alaka, may Allah be pleased with him, had just embraced Islam and was returning to his people when he encountered a group with a man who appeared to be suffering from a mental illness. They asked Alaka if he possessed any means to cure him, hoping that his new faith might have equipped him with some knowledge of healing.
It's almost as if they sensed a connection between his newfound faith and the possibility of healing. It speaks volumes about the power of faith and its perceived impact on well-being.
Exactly, and Alaka, drawing upon his understanding of Islam, decided to recite Surah Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran, over the man. He did this for 3 days, both morning and evening. And to everyone's astonishment, the man recovered.
It's an incredible testament to the healing power of the Quran and the sincerity of Alaka's faith. Do we know if he accepted any payment for his service?
That's where it gets even more fascinating. Alaka was offered payment, but he refused to accept it until he consulted the Prophet, peace be upon him. He wanted to ensure his actions were in line with Islamic teachings and that he wasn't profiting from something that was essentially a gift from Allah.
It speaks to his humility and his desire to seek guidance and clarity. He could have easily accepted the reward, but he chose to defer to the Prophet's wisdom.
Precisely, and upon hearing the story, the Prophet, peace be upon him, affirmed Alaka's actions and instructed him to accept the payment, saying, "Accept it, for by my life some accept it for a worthless charm, but you have done so for a genuine one."
Wow, that statement is so profound. The Prophet, peace be upon him, draws a clear distinction between seeking healing through the words of Allah and relying on superstitious practices. He validates the purity of Alaka's intentions and the authenticity of his approach.
Absolutely. And this story beautifully illustrates the concept of barakah, which is blessing in Islamic healing. Alaka didn't employ any magical rituals or charms. He simply recited a surah from the Quran with sincerity and faith. And through that, Allah granted healing.
It's a powerful reminder that true healing comes from Allah, and our role is to seek it through permissible means, such as prayer supplication, and utilizing the healing power of the Quran. It shifts our focus from the means to the source of healing.
Indeed it does. And this story of Alaka is just one of many captivating anecdotes woven throughout Book 22 of Sunan Abu Dawud. Each one offers a unique lens through which we can understand the interplay of faith and well-being in Islam.
They provide a practical context for the principles we've been discussing. It's like seeing theory come to life, witnessing how these teachings were applied in real-life situations.
Yeah.
I imagine it would have made them more relatable and inspiring for the early Muslims.
Absolutely. They bridge the gap between abstract concepts and lived experiences, allowing us to connect with the hearts and minds of those who came before us.
Are there any other stories that particularly resonated with you?
There's another fascinating hadith, number 3889, that recounts the experience of a companion who complained to the Prophet, peace be upon him, about being stung by a scorpion and being unable to sleep due to the pain.
Oh, yes, I recall this one. It emphasizes the importance of seeking refuge in Allah's words for protection.
Exactly. The Prophet, peace be upon him, advised the companion that had he recited a specific supplication the night before, seeking refuge in Allah's perfect words from the evil of creation, he would have been protected from the scorpion's sting.
This highlights a really interesting concept, that Allah's protection extends not only to spiritual or emotional harm, but also to physical dangers and threats in the natural world.
And this concept is further reinforced in Hadith 38890, where a man suffering from a scorpion sting is brought to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Once again, the Prophet, peace be upon him, emphasizes the significance of reciting this supplication for protection. He even specifies the wording of the supplication, demonstrating its importance as a shield against harm.
It's a powerful reminder to incorporate these protective words into our daily lives. not just in times of illness or distress. It's like building a spiritual shield around ourselves through constant remembrance and supplication.
Indeed. And these stories serve as practical guides, teaching us to turn to Allah for help and protection in all circumstances.
It's truly amazing how these hadiths, collected centuries ago, continue to hold such relevance and wisdom for us today. They offer timeless insights into approaching health and healing in a way that acknowledges both our physical needs and our spiritual connection to Allah.
That's the beauty of these teachings. They transcend time and culture, providing a framework for holistic well-being that is as applicable today as it was then.
As we delve deeper into these stories, what really resonates is the recurring theme of trust in Allah's power to heal. It seems like a cornerstone of the Islamic approach to healthcare.
Yes, trust in Allah's power is paramount. Throughout these narratives, we encounter individuals confronting various ailments, yet their ultimate reliance is always on Allah's mercy and healing power. They understand that while seeking treatment is important, true and lasting healing ultimately flows from Allah.
They embody this beautiful balance between striving and surrendering. They take the necessary steps, seeking remedies, making supplications, but ultimately they place their trust in Allah's will and His infinite wisdom.
And this trust in Allah's power isn't passive. It's an active reliance that fuels their efforts and informs their choices.
It's like that saying, tie your camel and trust in Allah. We do our part, but we also recognize that the ultimate outcome is in Allah's hands. It's about finding that delicate balance between action and acceptance.
Precisely. And this principle applies not only to physical healing, but to all aspects of life. It's a profound reminder to strive with sincerity and dedication, while acknowledging the limits of our control and surrendering to Allah's divine plan.
These stories aren't just about ancient cures or remedies. They're about cultivating a mindset, a way of being in the world that is rooted in faith, trust, and reliance on Allah. It's this very mindset that paves the path towards true well-being in all its dimensions.
Beautifully said. It's this mindset that empowers us to navigate life's challenges, including those related to health and healing, with resilience, hope, and a deep sense of connection to the divine.
It's about recognizing that even in the face of illness or hardship, Allah is with us, and His mercy encompasses all things. It's a message of profound comfort and strength.
And this realization, this deep knowing of Allah's presence and mercy can be incredibly healing in itself. It can soothe anxieties, lighten burdens, and offer hope even in the darkest of times. Shall we continue to explore this thread of hope and healing?
I think so. It's been quite a journey exploring the world of Islamic medicine as described in Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 22.
Welcome back to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. We've been on quite a journey exploring the world of Islamic medicine as described in Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 22.
It's been fascinating, hasn't it? Delving into these hadiths, we've uncovered so much wisdom about how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, viewed health, healing, and overall well-being.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the divine origins of healing and the wisdom behind various practices to those captivating stories that bring these teachings to life.
And as we wrap up our deep dive, I think it would be beneficial to step back and reflect on the core principles that have emerged from these discussions, principles that can guide us towards a more holistic and spiritually grounded approach to health, even in our modern times. I love that idea. It's like weaving together all the threads we've been exploring and creating a tapestry of understanding. What key takeaways would you highlight for our listeners?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's crucial to remember that the Islamic approach to health is inherently holistic. It's not just about addressing physical symptoms. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of our physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions.
That resonates deeply with everything we've discussed. It's this idea that true well-being requires nurturing all aspects of ourselves, not just the physical body. We see this in the Prophet's teachings on diet and exercise, but also in his emphasis on prayer character development and maintaining strong social connections.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how this understanding of the interconnectedness of our being is now being recognized and validated by modern science. Fields like psychoneuroimmunology are demonstrating the profound ways in which our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs can influence our physical health. The Islamic tradition seems to have grasped this concept centuries ago.
It makes you wonder if modern healthcare could benefit from integrating some of these ancient principles.
I believe it certainly could. Now, this understanding of interconnectedness naturally leads to this second key takeaway, the importance of seeking permissible remedies. The hadiths emphasize that while Allah is the ultimate healer, He has also provided us with the means to seek treatment and alleviate suffering.
It's like that beautiful concept we talked about earlier. Tie your camel and trust in Allah. We take the necessary steps, seek out remedies, consult healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we recognize that true healing comes from Allah.
Precisely. And what's particularly fascinating is the emphasis on permissible remedies. The hadiths are quite clear that any treatments we seek must align with Islamic principles and ethics.
It's about seeking healing in a way that doesn't compromise our imagine, values, or beliefs. It reminds me of all the discussions we had about amulets and spells and the importance of ensuring that our intentions are pure and that we're not relying on anything other than Allah for true healing.
That's a great connection. It highlights the importance of being discerning in our choices and always seeking guidance from knowledgeable sources. And this brings us to the third and arguably the most important takeaway: trusting in Allah's healing power. We've seen countless examples in these hadiths of individuals facing various challenges, yet their ultimate reliance is always on Allah's mercy and healing.
This theme of trust and surrender seems to run through all the stories and teachings we've discussed. It's about recognizing that even in the face of illness or hardship, Allah is with us, and His mercy encompasses all things. It's a powerful message of hope and comfort.
And this trust in Allah's power isn't passive resignation. It's an active reliance that fuels our efforts and shapes our choices. It allows us to approach challenges with a sense of serenity and acceptance, knowing that we are not alone in our struggles.
It's like a surrender not to weakness, but to a power greater than ourselves, a power that can heal and restore us in ways we cannot even imagine.
Beautifully said. And I think cultivating this mindset of trust and surrender can be incredibly healing in itself. It can ease anxiety, reduce stress, and open us up to receiving Allah's blessings in ways we might not have anticipated.
This has been such a profound exploration. And I think these three core principles, a holistic approach, seeking permissible remedies and trusting in Allah's power, provide a beautiful framework for approaching health and well-being in a truly Islamic way.
I couldn't agree more. They offer timeless wisdom that can guide us toward a more balanced, mindful, and spiritually grounded approach to health and healing.
And as we conclude this deep dive, is there one final thought or a question you would like to leave our listeners with something to ponder as they continue their own journeys toward well-being?
That's a wonderful question. As we've journeyed through these hadiths, I've been struck by the profound wisdom and practicality of the Prophet's teachings on health. And it leads me to wonder, how can we in our modern lives bridge the gap between this ancient wisdom and the realities of contemporary healthcare? How can we integrate these teachings into our own healthcare journeys in a way that is meaningful and beneficial?
That's such a powerful and relevant question. It challenges us to think critically about our own approaches to health and to seek a balance between traditional wisdom and modern practices. It encourages us to be proactive in our well-being, not just physically, but also spiritually and emotionally.
Exactly. It's not about rejecting modern medicine, but about exploring ways to incorporate the principles of pbuh nabawi into our lives, whether it's through our dietary choices, incorporating mindfulness practices, or simply cultivating a deeper awareness of the interconnectedness of our being.
It's an invitation to embark on a personal journey of discovery, to find those echoes of Ihsan in our own experiences of health and healing.
And to remember that true well-being is a multifaceted journey that encompasses the body, mind, and spirit.
This has been an incredible exploration of Islamic medicine. Thank you so much for guiding us through these fascinating hadiths and for sharing your insights.
The pleasure was all mine. It's been a wonderful journey of discovery.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. May Allah grant us all health, healing, and a deep understanding of His infinite wisdom.
Ameen and out.